Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People represents one of the most influential self-development books ever written, fundamentally challenging how we think about success, effectiveness, and human relationships. The book is built on the foundation that true effectiveness comes from character-based principles rather than quick-fix techniques or personality traits. The concept of paradigms forms the cornerstone of Covey's philosophy. A paradigm is the way we see the world, not in terms of our visual sense of sight, but in terms of perceiving, understanding, and interpreting. Our paradigms are the source of our attitudes and behaviors, and they profoundly affect how we interact with others and approach life's challenges. Covey illustrates the power of paradigms through various examples, including the famous story of a man on a subway whose children were misbehaving. Initially perceived as an irresponsible parent, the man revealed that they were returning from the hospital where their mother had just died. This revelation completely shifted the observer's paradigm, demonstrating how our perceptions shape our reality and responses. Paradigms are powerful because they create the lens through which we see the world. They are the source of our attitudes and behaviors. We cannot act with integrity outside of them. We simply cannot maintain wholeness if we talk and walk differently than we see. If you want to make minor changes in your life, work on your attitudes and behaviors. But if you want to make significant, quantum changes, work on your paradigms. The book challenges readers to examine their fundamental assumptions about effectiveness and success. Many people focus on changing their outward behaviors or developing new skills, but Covey argues that lasting change must come from shifting our basic paradigms. This inside-out approach forms the foundation for all 7 habits. Understanding paradigms helps us recognize that what we see is not necessarily what is, but rather what we perceive based on our conditioning, experience, and frame of reference. This recognition opens the door to the possibility of paradigm shifts, sudden breakthroughs in thinking that can dramatically improve our effectiveness. The 7 habits themselves represent a sequential learning process that moves individuals from dependence to independence to interdependence. The first 3 habits focus on self-mastery and moving from dependence to independence. Habits 4, 5, and 6 address interdependence, teamwork, cooperation, and communication. Habit 7 is the habit of renewal, which surrounds and supports all the other habits. The character ethic versus personality ethic. Covey draws a crucial distinction between 2 fundamental approaches to human effectiveness, the character ethic and the personality ethic. This distinction forms the philosophical foundation for understanding why the 7 habits work and why superficial approaches to personal development often fail. The character ethic dominated success literature for the first 150 years of American history. This approach taught that there are basic principles of effective living and that people can only experience true success and enduring happiness as they learn and integrate these principles into their basic character. The character ethic includes traits such as integrity, humility, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity, modesty, and the golden rule. Benjamin Franklin's approach exemplifies the character ethic. He identified 13 virtues he wanted to develop and worked on one each week for a year, repeating the cycle multiple times. His focus was on fundamental character development rather than techniques or quick fixes. The personality ethic, which became prominent after World War I, focuses on personality, public image, attitudes, behaviors, skills, and techniques that lubricate the processes of human interaction. This approach emphasizes techniques for getting along with people, influencing them, and making good impressions. While not inherently wrong, the personality ethic treats symptoms rather than addressing root causes. Examples of the personality ethic include learning communication techniques without developing character, using human relations approaches to manipulate others, or focusing on appearance and behavior modification without addressing underlying beliefs and motivations. This approach often leads to short-term success, but long-term failure because it lacks the foundation of solid character. The problem with the personality ethic is that it attempts to shortcut the natural process of growth and development. People try to use techniques and quick fixes to address problems that require fundamental character development. It's like trying to navigate with a flawed map. No matter how hard you try or how fast you go, you won't reach your desired destination. Covey argues that primary greatness is character-based, while secondary greatness is personality-based. Secondary greatness may achieve short-term success, but it cannot sustain long-term effectiveness without the foundation of character. People might achieve temporary success through charisma, manipulation, or technique, but without character, they cannot maintain the trust and respect necessary for lasting effectiveness. The character ethic is based on the fundamental idea that there are principles that govern human effectiveness, natural laws in the human dimension that are just as real, just as unchanging, and arguably as unarguable as laws such as gravity are in the physical dimension. These principles are not esoteric, mysterious, or religious ideas. They are not invented by any particular culture or society. Principles such as fairness, integrity, honesty, human dignity, service, quality, and potential are not practices. Practices are specific activities or techniques that work in particular situations. Principles are deep, fundamental truths that have universal application. They apply to individuals, marriages, families, and organizations of every kind. When we base our lives on correct principles, we create a solid foundation for developing the 4 life support factors that enable us to deal effectively with change, security, guidance, wisdom, and power. These factors are interdependent, and any change in one affects all the others. Inside-out approach. The inside-out approach represents a fundamental paradigm shift in how we think about personal and interpersonal effectiveness. Rather than focusing on external techniques, quick fixes, or manipulative strategies, the inside-out approach emphasizes that lasting change must begin with ourselves, with our character, our motives, and our fundamental paradigms. Inside out means to start first with self. Even more fundamentally, to start with the most inside part of self, with your paradigms, your character, and your motives. The inside-out approach says that private victories precede public victories, that making and keeping promises to ourselves precedes making and keeping promises to others. This approach recognizes that we cannot achieve sustained public victories with others until we first achieve private victories with ourselves. If we try to improve our relationships with others before we work on ourselves, we may achieve some temporary success, but it will not be lasting. The foundation of trust and respect necessary for effective relationships must be built on personal integrity and character. The inside-out approach also recognizes that we cannot change others directly. We can only change ourselves, and as we do so, we may influence others through our example and through the change dynamic we bring to our relationships. This represents a significant paradigm shift for people who spend their energy trying to change others or waiting for circumstances to change. Character development follows natural laws of growth and development. Just as physical growth cannot be forced beyond natural limits, character development cannot be rushed or shortcut. It requires patience, persistence, and consistent effort over time. The inside-out approach respects these natural laws and works with them rather than against them. The 7 habits represent an inside-out approach to effectiveness. Each habit builds on the previous ones, creating a sequential learning process that develops character from the foundation up. The first 3 habits focus on self-mastery, moving from dependence to independence. The next 3 habits address interpersonal effectiveness, moving from independence to interdependence. The 7th habit encompasses all the others, providing the energy and renewal necessary to maintain growth and effectiveness. Private victories with ourselves provide the foundation for public victories with others. These private victories include developing our character, clarifying our values, establishing our mission, and learning to manage ourselves effectively. Without these private victories, our public relationships will lack the foundation of trust and respect necessary for sustained effectiveness. Private victories with ourselves provide the foundation for public victories with others. These private victories include developing our character, clarifying our values, establishing our mission, and learning to manage ourselves effectively. Without these private victories, our public relationships will lack the foundation of trust and respect necessary for sustained effectiveness. The inside-out approach also emphasizes that our responses to life circumstances are more important than the circumstances themselves. While we cannot always control what happens to us, we can always control our response to what happens to us. This responsibility is fundamental to human effectiveness and forms the foundation for the first habit. Be proactive. Habit 1. Be proactive. The first habit, be proactive, represents the foundation of all personal effectiveness and forms the basis for developing the other 6 habits. Being proactive means taking responsibility for your life and recognizing that your behavior is a function of your decisions, not your conditions. This habit embodies the principle of personal responsibility and choice. Proactivity is based on the unique human endowment of self-awareness, the ability to think about your very thought process. Because of this capability, human beings can examine their own character and decide how to view whatever circumstances they find themselves in and how to respond to those circumstances. Between stimulus and response is our greatest freedom, the freedom to choose. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, exemplifies ultimate proactivity. In the Nazi concentration camps, Frankl discovered that even in the most extreme circumstances, he retained the freedom to choose his response. He could not control his environment, but he could control his inner response to that environment. This realization became the foundation for his therapeutic approach and his life's work. Proactive people recognize that they are responsible. They do not blame circumstances, conditions, or conditioning for their behavior. Their behavior is a product of their own conscious choice, based on values, rather than a product of their conditions, based on feeling. Reactive people, on the other hand, are often affected by their physical environment, social environment, or psychological environment. The circle of concern and circle of influence provide a powerful framework for understanding proactivity. The circle of concern encompasses all the things we care about: our health, our children, problems at work, the national debt, nuclear war. Within the circle of concern lies a smaller circle of influence, things we can actually do something about, such as our work, our habits, our relationships with family members. Proactive people focus their efforts on their circle of influence. They work on the things they can do something about. The nature of their energy is positive, enlarging, and magnifying, causing their circle of influence to increase. Reactive people focus their efforts on the circle of concern. They focus on the weakness of other people, the problems in the environment, and circumstances over which they have no control. Their focus results in blaming and accusing attitudes, reactive language, and increased feelings of victimization. The consequences of each approach are significantly different. When proactive people focus their efforts on their circle of influence gradually expands. When reactive people focus on their circle of concern, their circle of influence shrinks because they neglect the things they could influence while worrying about things beyond their control. Language is a real indicator of how we see ourselves in relation to our circle of influence. Reactive language absolves us of responsibility. Phrases like, "That's me," "That's just the way I am," "I can't," "I have to," "if only," and "I'm forced to" reflect a reactive paradigm. Proactive language affirms our ability to choose our response. Phrases like, "I choose," "I prefer," "I will," and "let's look at our alternatives" reflect a proactive paradigm. Making and keeping commitments to ourselves is perhaps the most powerful way to develop proactivity. When we make a commitment to ourselves and keep it, we develop the strength of character to make and keep larger commitments. Each time we break a commitment to ourselves, we weaken our integrity and our ability to act proactively in the future. Small commitments and promises to ourselves are often the most effective starting point. These might include simple things like getting up earlier, exercising regularly, reading meaningful literature, or practicing a new skill. The key is to make commitments we can keep and then gradually expand our ability to make and keep larger commitments. Proactivity also involves taking initiative without being asked or told what to do. It means recognizing our responsibility to make things happen rather than waiting for someone else to take action. This might involve identifying problems and solving them, recognizing opportunities and acting on them, or simply doing more than what is expected in our current roles and responsibilities. The proactive approach to mistakes is to acknowledge them, correct them quickly, and learn from them. This approach builds trust and demonstrates integrity. Reactive people either ignore their mistakes, blame others for them, or become defensive when mistakes are pointed out. Being proactive does not mean being pushy, aggressive, or insensitive. It means taking responsibility for making things happen through our initiative, resourcefulness, and persistence. It means exercising the freedom to choose our response to circumstances while respecting the rights and feelings of others. Developing proactivity requires consistent effort and practice. It involves regularly examining our responses to daily situations and choosing to respond based on principles and values rather than emotions or circumstances. Over time, proactive responses become natural and automatic, creating a foundation for all other areas of personal effectiveness. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. The second habit, begin with the end in mind, is based on the principle that all things are created twice, first in the mind, then in reality. This habit involves developing a clear vision of where you want to go in life and using that vision to guide your daily decisions and actions. Beginning with the end in mind means starting with a clear understanding of your destination. It means knowing where you're going so that you better understand where you are now, and so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. This habit is based on the principle of mental creation preceding physical creation. To begin with the end in mind requires developing a personal mission statement that serves as your personal constitution, the solid expression of your vision and values. Your mission statement becomes the criterion by which you measure everything else in your life. It provides unchanging strength and direction in an increasingly chaotic and rapidly changing world. The most effective way to begin with the end in mind is to develop a personal mission statement, philosophy, or creed. A mission statement focuses on what you want to be, character, and what you want to do, contributions and achievements, and on the values or principles upon which being and doing are based. A personal mission statement is like a tree with deep roots. It provides stability and nourishment in all seasons of life. Creating a personal mission statement requires deep introspection and often takes several weeks or months to develop properly. The process involves connecting with your deepest thoughts and feelings, examining your fundamental beliefs and values, and envisioning the kind of person you want to become and the life you want to live. One powerful exercise for developing your mission statement involves attending your own funeral in your imagination. What would you like each speaker representing different aspects of your life, such as family, friends, work, and community, to say about your life? What kind of person were you? What contributions did you make? What achievements meant the most to you? This exercise helps clarify what matters most to you at the deepest level. Another approach involves examining your different roles and the goals you have for each role. You might be a parent, spouse, professional, friend, and community member. What kind of parent do you want to be? What kind of professional legacy do you want to leave? How do you want to contribute to your community? Considering these different roles helps ensure that your mission statement addresses all important areas of your life. Your personal mission statement should be uniquely yours, based on your own introspection and articulation of your deepest values and direction. While you might be inspired by others' mission statements, copying someone else's statement will not provide the same power and meaning as developing your own. The process of developing a mission statement is as important as the final product. The deep thinking, introspection, and honest self-examination required to create a meaningful mission statement contribute significantly to your character development and self-awareness. The writing process helps clarify your thoughts and feelings and often reveals insights about yourself that you might not have recognized otherwise. Once developed, your mission statement should be regularly reviewed and refined. As you grow and learn, your understanding of your values and direction may evolve. Your mission statement should be a living document that guides your decisions while remaining flexible enough to accommodate growth and change. An effective mission statement serves several important functions. It provides guidance for decision-making, helping you evaluate opportunities and choices against your fundamental values and long-term direction. It provides motivation and inspiration, connecting your daily activities to your deeper purpose and meaning. It provides a sense of security and stability, anchoring you to unchanging principles in a changing world. Your mission statement also helps you identify what not to do. When you're clear about your priorities and direction, it becomes easier to say no to activities, opportunities, and requests that don't align with your mission. This ability to focus your time and energy on what matters most is essential for effectiveness. Beginning with the end in mind also applies to specific projects and goals. Before beginning any significant undertaking, take time to visualize the desired outcome clearly. What will success look like? What standards will you use to measure progress? What potential obstacles might you encounter, and how will you address them? This mental creation process significantly improves the likelihood of achieving your desired results. The principle of beginning with the end in mind applies to organizations as well as individuals. Effective organizations develop mission statements that clearly articulate their purpose, values, and direction. These organizational mission statements, when properly developed and implemented, align all stakeholders around common goals and provide a framework for decision-making at every level. Visualization is a powerful technique for beginning with the end in mind. Athletes use visualization to mentally rehearse perfect performances before actual competition. Speakers visualize successful presentations. Business people visualize successful negotiations. This mental rehearsal improves actual performance by programming the mind for success and identifying potential challenges in advance. The second habit requires looking beyond current circumstances and limitations to envision possibilities and potential. It involves thinking creatively about what could be rather than being limited by what currently is. This forward-thinking perspective is essential for leadership and innovation in any field. Habit 3. Put first things first. The third habit, put first things first, is about implementing and executing your mission statement through effective self-management. While the first two habits address paradigms and mental creation, the third habit is about physical creation actually doing what matters most. This habit is the practical fulfillment of the first two habits. Putting first things first means organizing and executing around your priorities. It's about ensuring that your time and energy are invested in activities that align with your mission statement and move you toward your most important goals. This habit distinguishes between what is urgent and what is important, focusing on importance rather than urgency. The time management matrix provides a powerful framework for understanding how to put first things first. This matrix divides activities into 4 quadrants based on 2 factors: importance and urgency. Quadrant the first activities are both urgent and important crises, emergency meetings, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. Quadrant 2 activities are important but not urgent prevention, relationship building, recognizing new opportunities, planning, recreation. Quadrant 3 activities are urgent, but not important interruptions. Some phone calls, some mail, some reports, some meetings, many pressing matters, many popular activities. Quadrant 4 activities are neither urgent nor important trivia. Busy work, time wasters, pleasant activities that have no relationship to important goals. Some phone calls, some mail, some television. Most people spend their time in quadrants 1 and 3, reacting to urgent matters whether they're important or not. They might achieve temporary results, but they often feel stressed, burned out, and crisis-driven. Some people spend excessive time in Quadrant 4 activities, avoiding responsibility and important tasks, which leads to dependency on others and marginal performance. Highly effective people spend most of their time in Quadrant 2 doing things that are important but not urgent. This proactive approach prevents many Quadrant 1 crises from occurring and creates the foundation for long-term effectiveness. Quadrant 2 activities include things like building relationships, writing personal mission statements, long-range planning, exercising, preventive maintenance, and preparation. The challenge with Quadrant 2 activities is that they're seldom urgent, so they're easy to postpone. However, these activities are the foundation of effective living. They represent investments that pay dividends in all areas of life. When you spend adequate time in Quadrant 2, you decrease the number of Quadrant I crises you face because you're addressing problems before they become critical. Effective weekly planning is essential for putting first things first, rather than focusing solely on daily planning, which tends to be reactive. Weekly planning allows you to maintain perspective on your roles and goals while adapting to changing circumstances. Weekly planning involves identifying your key roles, selecting important goals for each role for the week, and scheduling time for these priorities. The concept of roles provides balance and perspective in weekly planning. Most people have several important roles: parent, spouse, professional, individual, friend, community member. By identifying these roles and setting goals for each, you ensure that important areas of your life receive adequate attention rather than being crowded out by urgent demands. Scheduling priorities rather than prioritizing schedules represents a fundamental shift in time management. Traditional time management focuses on efficiency, doing things right. The third habit focuses on effectiveness, doing the right things. This means scheduling time for your most important priorities first, then fitting other activities around these priorities rather than hoping to find time for important things after handling urgent matters. The principle of integrity in the moment of choice is crucial for putting first things first. Having a schedule or plan is meaningless if you don't have the discipline to follow it when the moment of choice arrives. This integrity, the ability to make and keep commitments to yourself, is fundamental to self-respect and personal effectiveness. Saying no to good things in order to say yes to best things is an essential skill for putting first things first. Opportunities, requests, and distractions constantly compete for our attention. Without clear priorities and the courage to decline activities that don't align with our mission, we'll find our time consumed by urgent but unimportant activities. Delegation is a powerful tool for putting first things first, particularly as your responsibilities and opportunities increase. Effective delegation involves entrusting others with appropriate tasks while providing adequate resources, clear expectations, and reasonable accountability. This frees your time for activities that require your unique talents and perspective. The principle of leverage applies to putting first things first. Some activities produce disproportionately large results relative to the time and energy invested. These high-leverage activities, often Quadrant 2 activities, should receive priority over activities that produce marginal results, regardless of how urgent they might seem. Putting first things first also involves understanding the difference between management and leadership. Management is efficiency in climbing the ladder of success. Leadership is determining whether the ladder is leaning against the right wall. The first two habits address leadership determining the right wall. The third habit addresses management climbing the ladder efficiently. Technology can be either a tool or a trap in putting first things first. When used wisely, technology can increase your effectiveness by automating routine tasks, improving communication, and providing access to information. However, technology can also become a source of distraction and urgency that pulls you away from important activities. The key is using technology intentionally to support your priorities rather than allowing it to drive your schedule. The third habit requires regular review and adjustment. What constitutes first things changes as circumstances change, as you grow and develop, and as you gain experience and wisdom. Regular review of your mission, roles, and goals ensures that your time and energy remain focused on what matters most in your current situation. Habit 4. Think win-win. The fourth habit, think win-win, represents a fundamental paradigm of human interaction. It's a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions. Win-win means that agreements or solutions are mutually beneficial and satisfying to all parties involved. With win-win, all parties feel good about the decision and are committed to the action plan. Think win-win is one of 6 paradigms of human interaction. The other paradigms are win-lose. If I win, you lose. Lose. Win. If you win, I lose. 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 If I can't win, neither can you. Win. Focus only on your own success. And win-win, or no deal. If we can't find a mutually beneficial solution, we agree to disagree. Each paradigm has its place, but win-win is the most effective approach for most situations and relationships. The win-lose paradigm is deeply embedded in most people's thinking because of their conditioning in family, school, sports, law, and business. From early childhood, most people learn to think in terms of competition rather than cooperation. They learn that life is a zero-sum game where someone must lose for someone else to win. This paradigm is appropriate in truly competitive situations like sports, but it's counterproductive in most life situations. The lose-win paradigm produces people who are quick to please or appease, seeking strength from popularity or acceptance. These people have little courage to express their own feelings and convictions, and are easily intimidated by the ego strength of others. In negotiations, lose-win people fold quickly, often giving in to preserve harmony or avoid conflict. The third habit requires regular review and adjustment. What constitutes first things changes as circumstances change, as you grow and develop, and as you gain experience and wisdom. Regular review of your mission, roles, and goals ensures that your time and energy remain focused on what matters most in your current situation. Habit 4. Think win-win. The fourth habit, think win-win, represents a fundamental paradigm of human interaction. It's a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions. Win-win means that agreements or solutions are mutually beneficial and satisfying to all parties involved. With win-win, all parties feel good about the decision and are committed to the action plan. Think win-win is one of 6 paradigms of human interaction. The other paradigms are win-lose. If I win, you lose. Lose-win. If you win, I lose. Lose-lose. If I can't win, neither can you. Win. Focus only on your own success. And win-win or no deal. If we can't find a mutually beneficial solution, we agree to disagree. Each paradigm has its place, but win-win is the most effective approach for most situations and relationships. The win-lose paradigm is deeply embedded in most people's thinking because of their conditioning in family, school, sports, law, and business. From early childhood, most people learn to think in terms of competition rather than cooperation. They learn that life is a zero-sum game where someone must lose for someone else to win. This paradigm is appropriate in truly competitive situations like sports, but it's counterproductive in most life situations. The lose-win paradigm produces people who are quick to please or appease, seeking strength from popularity or acceptance. These people have little courage to express their own feelings and convictions and are easily intimidated by the ego strength of others. In negotiations, lose-win people fold quickly, often giving in to preserve harmony or avoid conflict. The lose-lose paradigm occurs when two win-lose people interact. When two determined, stubborn, ego-invested individuals interact, the result is often destructive to both parties. This paradigm is also chosen by people who become vindictive when they feel wronged if they can't win. They're determined to make sure the other person loses too. The win paradigm means focusing solely on your own success without necessarily wanting others to lose. People with this paradigm don't necessarily want someone else to lose. That's irrelevant. What matters is that they get what they want. This paradigm is common among highly independent people who are genuinely happy for others' successes, but primarily focused on their own achievements. Win-win or no deal means that if you can't reach a solution that benefits everyone, you agree to disagree, but you do it agreeably. No deal means that if the terms aren't mutually beneficial, there is no deal. This approach often resolves itself to win-win because both parties remain committed to communicating until they reach a mutually beneficial solution. Win-win is not a technique. It's a total philosophy of human interaction. It comes from a character of integrity, maturity, and abundance mentality. People with integrity have the courage to be true to their feelings, values, and commitments. People with maturity can express their ideas and feelings, with courage balanced with consideration for the feelings and ideas of others. People with abundance mentality believe there is plenty for everyone. The abundance mentality flows from a deep inner sense of personal security and worth. People with abundance mentality believe that sharing recognition, profits, and decision-making actually multiplies these resources rather than diminishing them. They genuinely believe that one person's success does not come at the expense of another's success. The scarcity mentality, in contrast, assumes that there's only so much to go around. People with scarcity mentality have difficulty sharing recognition, credit, power, or profit even with those who help in their production. They find it hard to be genuinely happy for others' successes because they fear that other successes somehow diminish their own opportunities. Building win-win relationships requires high trust. Trust is the foundation of win-win. Without trust, people lack the security necessary to be open about their needs, concerns, and creative possibilities. They become defensive and protective, which makes win-win solutions impossible. The emotional bank account is a metaphor that describes the amount of trust that's been built up in a relationship. It's the feeling of safeness you have with another human being. If I make deposits into an emotional bank account with you through courtesy, kindness, honesty, and keeping my commitments to you, I build up a reserve. Your trust toward me becomes higher, and I can call upon that trust many times if I need to. Major deposits into the emotional bank account include understanding the individual, attending to little things, keeping commitments, clarifying expectations, showing personal integrity, and apologizing sincerely when you make withdrawals. These deposits build the trust necessary for win-win relationships. Understanding the individual means really understanding what constitutes a deposit for another person. What might be a deposit for you might not be perceived as a deposit by someone else. You have to understand people individually to know what is important to them and what constitutes a deposit in their emotional bank account. Attending to little things recognizes that in relationships, little things are big things. Small discourtesies, little unkindnesses, and small forms of disrespect make large withdrawals. Small courtesies, little kindnesses, and small forms of respect make large deposits. Keeping commitments is probably the most important deposit you can make, and breaking commitments is probably the most serious withdrawal. When you break a commitment, you not only withdraw from that particular account, you also affect your reputation with everyone who knows about the broken commitment. Clarifying expectations prevents major withdrawals that occur when people have different expectations about roles and goals. Many personal and professional problems stem from unclear expectations around roles and goals, standards and criteria, resources and accountability, consequences and rewards. Showing personal integrity means being loyal to those who are not present. When you defend someone who isn't there to defend themselves, you create trust with those who are present. People know they can trust you because they see how you treat others. Apologizing sincerely when you make withdrawals demonstrates courage, character, and strength. When you realize you've made a withdrawal, apologize quickly, sincerely, and specifically. Don't justify your actions or blame the other person. Take responsibility and commit to doing better in the future. Win-win agreements specify desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences. These 5 elements provide structure for win-win thinking and agreements. Desired results identify what is to be accomplished and when. Guidelines specify the parameters within which results are to be accomplished. Resources identify the human, financial, technical, or organizational resources available to accomplish the results. Accountability establishes the standards of performance and the times for evaluation and reporting. Consequences specify the natural and logical results of evaluation, both positive and negative. These consequences should be directly related to the desired results and should represent the natural consequences of achievement or failure to achieve the specified results. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The 5th habit, seek first to understand, then to be understood, is the key to effective interpersonal communication. This habit is based on the principle that you must first understand before you can be understood. It requires a deep paradigm shift because most people seek first to be understood. They want to get their point across first. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They're either speaking or preparing to speak. They're filtering everything through their own paradigms, reading their autobiography into other people's lives. When someone else is speaking, they're comparing what they're hearing to their own experiences and either agreeing or disagreeing based on their own frame of reference. Empathic listening involves listening with the intent to understand. It means getting inside another person's frame of reference and seeing the world the way they see it. understanding their paradigm, and feeling how they feel. Empathic listening is risky because it makes you vulnerable to being influenced by what you hear. Most people listen at one of 4 levels. The lowest level is ignoring, not really listening at all. The second level is pretending, yeah, right. The third level is selective listening, hearing only certain parts of the conversation that interest you or relate to your experience. The fourth and highest level is attentive listening, paying attention and focusing energy on the words being said. Empathic listening represents a 5th level that goes beyond attentive listening. It means listening with your ears, your eyes, and your heart. It means understanding not just the words, but the feelings behind the words. Studies suggest that only 10% of communication is represented by words, 30% by sounds, and 60% by body language. In empathic listening, you listen to all 3. The skill of empathic listening involves 4 developmental stages. The first stage is mimicking content, simply repeating what someone says. The second stage is rephrasing content, putting their meaning into your own words. The third stage is reflecting feeling, focusing on emotion rather than just content. The fourth stage is rephrasing content and reflecting feeling, demonstrating understanding of both content and emotion. Seeking first to understand requires enormous personal security because understanding doesn't mean agreeing. You can understand someone's point of view without agreeing with it. However, when people feel understood, they become much more open to influence and much more willing to listen to your perspective. The principle of seeking first to understand applies to all relationships and communication situations. In marriage, family relationships, friendships, and professional relationships, the quality of communication determines the quality of the relationship. When people feel understood, trust increases, defenses come down, and meaningful communication becomes possible. Understanding precedes influence. The ancient Greek philosophy recognizes this principle in the concepts of ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is your personal credibility and trustworthiness. Pathos is your empathic understanding of the other person's feelings and perspective. Logos is the logical presentation of your ideas. Most people focus on logos logical arguments without first establishing ethos and pathos. Diagnose before you prescribe is a principle that applies to communication as well as medicine. An effective physician would never prescribe medication without first understanding the patient's symptoms, medical history, and current condition. Similarly, effective communication requires understanding the other person's perspective before attempting to influence them with your ideas or solutions. When you really listen to people, they begin to open up. The more they open up, the more they trust you. The more they trust you, the more they're willing to be influenced by you. This is not manipulation. It's genuine understanding that creates the foundation for meaningful communication and influence. Seeking first to understand also applies to reading and learning. Before you agree or disagree with something you read, make sure you understand it. Many arguments and disagreements stem from misunderstanding rather than fundamental differences of opinion. Taking time to understand before evaluating leads to better thinking and decision-making. The second part of the habit, then, to be understood involves presenting your ideas clearly, specifically, visually, and most importantly, in the context of understanding the other person's paradigm and concerns. When you've demonstrated that you understand the other person's perspective, they become much more willing to listen to your perspective. Presenting your ideas in the context of understanding means showing how your proposals address the concerns and meet the needs you've identified through empathic listening. This approach is much more effective than simply presenting your ideas without reference to the other person's perspective and concerns. The one-on-one teaching and learning that takes place in seeking first to understand benefits both parties. When you listen empathically to another person, you give them psychological air. They feel understood and valued, which increases their self-esteem and opens them to influence. At the same time, you gain deeper understanding of their perspective, which often provides insights that improve your own thinking and decision-making. Seeking first to understand is particularly important in conflict situations. Most conflicts are based on misunderstanding rather than fundamental differences. When people take time to understand each other's perspectives, they often discover that their positions are not as far apart as they initially thought. Even when real differences exist, understanding each other's concerns and constraints makes it possible to find creative solutions that address everyone's needs. The habit of seeking first to understand, then to be understood, transforms relationships and communication patterns. It creates an atmosphere of caring and positive problem-solving rather than defensiveness and adversarial positioning. It demonstrates respect for other people and their right to be understood. It builds trust and opens channels for creative solutions that might not emerge through conventional communication approaches. Habit 6. Synergize. The sixth habit, synergize, represents the pinnacle of all the previous habits. Synergy is the essence of principle-centered leadership and principle-centered living. It's the highest activity in all life, the true test and manifestation of all the other habits combined. Synergy catalyzes, unifies, and unleashes the greatest energies within people. Synergy means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It means that the relationship that the parts have to each other is a part in and of itself. It's not just an additive process, it's a creative process. When you have real synergy, the result is better than either person could produce alone. It's the phenomenon where 1 + 1 = 3 or more. The essence of synergy is to value differences, mental, emotional, and psychological differences between people. The key to synergy is understanding that people see the world differently because they have different paradigms, different experiences, and different strengths. These differences, when properly valued and leveraged, become sources of strength rather than sources of conflict. Most people see differences as problems to be solved rather than opportunities to be leveraged. They try to clone themselves or surround themselves with people who think like they think. However, this approach eliminates the possibility of synergy because synergy requires different perspectives working together to create something new and better. Valuing differences doesn't mean agreeing with everyone or accepting all viewpoints as equally valid. It means recognizing that different perspectives can contribute to better solutions, and that diversity of thought often leads to breakthrough thinking. It means being curious about why someone sees things differently rather than immediately defending your own position. The synergistic process involves communication that moves beyond respectful interaction to creative cooperation. In synergistic communication, people don't just exchange information or even seek to understand each other. They create new alternatives together. They build on each other's ideas to develop solutions that none of them could have created alone. Synergy requires high trust and cooperation. Without trust, people remain defensive and protective of their ideas. They're unwilling to be vulnerable or to build on others' suggestions. Trust creates the safety necessary for people to think out loud, explore possibilities, and experiment with new approaches without fear of judgment or exploitation. The process of synergy often begins with recognizing that the current solution or approach is inadequate. Rather than choosing between existing alternatives, synergistic thinking seeks third alternatives that combine the best elements of different approaches while transcending their limitations. This requires creative thinking and a willingness to let go of attachment to particular solutions. In family relationships, synergy might involve creating new approaches to household responsibilities that consider everyone's strengths, preferences, and schedules. Rather than simply dividing chores equally or following traditional role assignments, families can develop creative approaches that leverage each person's unique contributions while ensuring that necessary tasks are completed. In business relationships, synergy might involve developing products or services that neither company could create alone. Rather than seeing other companies as competitors to be defeated, synergistic thinking looks for ways to combine strengths and resources to create value for all stakeholders, including customers. The synergistic process requires patience because it takes time to understand different perspectives and develop creative alternatives. It's often easier and faster to make decisions unilaterally or to compromise between existing positions. However, the time invested in synergistic problem solving usually pays dividends in better solutions and stronger relationships. Synergy is not the same as compromise. Compromise usually involves each party giving up something to reach an acceptable middle ground. Synergy involves creating new alternatives that give each party more of what they want than they could achieve through individual effort or traditional negotiation. Class discussions provide a simple example of synergy in action. When students share different perspectives on a topic, the understanding that emerges often exceeds what any individual student could have achieved alone. The interaction of different viewpoints creates insights and understanding that transcend the original individual contributions. Environmental synergy demonstrates the principle in nature. In ecological systems, different organisms interact in ways that benefit all participants. Plants produce oxygen that animals need, while animals produce carbon dioxide that plants need. Predators help maintain healthy prey populations, while prey provide food for predators. These relationships create sustainable systems that support life for all participants. The barriers to synergy include pride, ego, position-taking, and the need to be right. When people become attached to their own ideas or positions, they lose the openness necessary for synergistic thinking. They focus on defending their viewpoint, rather than exploring how their perspective might combine with others to create something better. Creating synergy requires specific communication skills, including empathic listening, respectful dialogue, creative thinking, and collaborative problem solving. It requires the ability to suspend judgment while exploring possibilities and the willingness to build on others' ideas even when they initially seem incompatible with your own thinking. Synergistic leadership involves bringing out the best thinking and creativity in groups. Synergistic leaders create environments where people feel safe to share their authentic perspectives and where different viewpoints are valued as resources for better decision-making. They focus on facilitating creative problem-solving rather than imposing their own solutions. The results of synergy extend beyond specific solutions or decisions. The process of working synergistically builds relationships, develops trust, and creates positive energy that enhances future cooperation. People who experience genuine synergy often describe it as energizing and inspiring, creating enthusiasm for continued collaboration. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. The seventh habit, sharpen the saw, surrounds all the other habits and makes them possible. It's the habit of renewal, the principle that empowers us to move on an upward spiral of growth and continuous improvement. Sharpening the saw means preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have, yourself. The story behind this habit involves a man frantically sawing down a tree. When asked why he doesn't take a break to sharpen his saw, he responds that he's too busy sawing to stop and sharpen. This story illustrates how many people approach life working so hard that they don't take time to renew themselves, ultimately becoming less effective despite their continued effort. Sharpen the Saw involves renewal in 4 dimensions of human nature: physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. These 4 dimensions work together synergistically. Strength in one dimension enhances the others, while weakness in one dimension affects all the others. Balanced renewal in all 4 dimensions is essential for sustained effectiveness. The physical dimension involves caring for your physical body through proper nutrition, sufficient rest, and regular exercise. This dimension provides the foundation for all other renewal activities. When you're physically healthy and energetic, you have the capacity to engage fully in mental, emotional, and spiritual renewal activities. Exercise is particularly important for the physical dimension because it affects all 3 categories that influence physical well-being. Endurance exercises like walking, running, swimming, and cycling improve cardiovascular health and build your body's capacity for work and stress. Flexibility exercises like stretching and yoga maintain joint mobility and reduce injury risk. Strength exercises like weight training build muscle capacity and bone density. The key to physical renewal is consistency rather than intensity. Regular moderate exercise is more beneficial than sporadic intense exercise. Most physical renewal activities don't require significant time investments. 30 minutes of exercise most days provide substantial health benefits. The challenge is making physical renewal a priority, despite competing demands on your time. The mental dimension involves expanding your knowledge and skills through reading, writing, organizing, and planning. Most people stop learning actively after completing formal education. But continuous learning is essential for staying current and maintaining mental sharpness. Mental renewal also involves challenging yourself with new skills and perspectives. Reading good literature provides excellent mental renewal. Reading broadens your perspective, improves your vocabulary, enhances your thinking ability, and provides knowledge that can be applied in many areas of life. The key is reading material that challenges and expands your thinking rather than simply entertaining you. Writing is another powerful form of mental renewal. Writing forces you to organize your thoughts, clarify your ideas, and express yourself clearly. It provides a way to reflect on your experiences and capture insights for future reference. Writing can take many forms, including journaling, planning, creative writing, or professional communication. Organizing and planning activities also provide mental renewal. These activities help you think systematically about your priorities, goals, and strategies. They develop your ability to see relationships between different areas of your life and to coordinate your activities for maximum effectiveness. The emotional and social dimensions of renewal involve your relationships with others and your relationship with yourself. This dimension includes developing emotional intelligence, building meaningful relationships, and contributing to others' well-being. Service to others is particularly powerful for emotional and social renewal. Service provides perspective on your own challenges and problems. When you focus on helping others, your own difficulties often seem more manageable. Service also creates positive emotions and builds your sense of connection with others. It demonstrates that your life has meaning and purpose beyond your own immediate needs and wants. Building and maintaining relationships requires ongoing attention and investment. This includes spending quality time with family and friends, showing appreciation and gratitude, and being present and engaged when you're with others. Strong relationships provide emotional support, enhance your sense of belonging, and contribute to your overall well-being. The spiritual dimension involves your relationship with yourself, your values, and your sense of meaning and purpose. Spiritual renewal might involve meditation, prayer, reading inspirational literature, spending time in nature, or engaging in activities that connect you with your deepest values and beliefs. Meditation and prayer provide quiet time for reflection and inner renewal. These practices help you gain perspective on daily challenges, clarify your values and priorities, and develop inner peace and strength. Regular meditation or prayer creates a foundation of calm and centeredness that enhances all other activities. Reading inspirational literature feeds your spirit and reinforces your commitment to positive principles and values. This includes religious texts, philosophy, poetry, and other literature that elevates your thinking and connects you with timeless wisdom and principles. Spending time in nature provides spiritual renewal for many people. Natural settings offer beauty, peace, and perspective that can restore your spirit and remind you of your connection to something larger than yourself. Time in nature often provides clarity about problems and decisions. The spiritual dimension is private and deeply personal. What provides spiritual renewal for one person might not work for another. The key is identifying activities that connect you with your deepest values and sense of meaning, and making these activities a regular part of your life. Balanced renewal means paying attention to all four dimensions rather than focusing exclusively on one or two. Many people focus primarily on physical or mental renewal while neglecting emotional and spiritual renewal. Others focus on emotional relationships while neglecting physical health. Balanced renewal ensures that all aspects of your nature receive attention and care. The upward spiral represents the pattern of growth that results from regular renewal. As you renew yourself in the four dimensions, you increase your capacity to live the other habits more effectively. Enhanced capacity enables you to make better choices, which produces better results, which increases your capacity further. This creates a positive spiral of continuous improvement. Continuous improvement applies to all aspects of life: personal, professional, and organizational. The principle is that small, consistent improvements compound over time to produce significant results. This is more effective than sporadic major changes that are difficult to sustain. The conscience serves as the internal compass that guides your renewal activities. Your conscience connects you with universal principles and helps you recognize when your life is aligned with those principles. Regular renewal enhances your ability to hear and follow your conscience. Sharpen the Saw represents the commitment to lifelong learning and growth. It recognizes that effectiveness is not a destination, but a journey requiring ongoing attention and improvement. People who consistently renew themselves in all four dimensions maintain their effectiveness and continue growing throughout their lives. Inside Out again. The journey through the 7 habits represents a progression from dependence through independence to interdependence. This progression reflects the natural pattern of human development and provides a roadmap for achieving both personal effectiveness and meaningful relationships with others. Dependence is the paradigm of you. You take care of me, you don't come through, and I blame you for the results. Independence is the paradigm of I can do it. I am responsible. I am self-reliant. I can choose. Interdependence is the paradigm of we can do it. We can cooperate. We can combine our talents and abilities to create something greater together. Physical dependence characterizes early childhood when we rely on others for basic survival needs. As we grow and develop, we gradually become physically independent, able to care for ourselves and make our own way in the world. However, true independence involves more than physical capability. It requires emotional and intellectual maturity as well. Emotional independence means that your happiness and sense of worth come from within, rather than depending on others' approval, recognition, or behavior. Emotionally independent people can maintain their emotional equilibrium, regardless of others' actions or attitudes. They don't need others to behave in particular ways for them to feel good about themselves. Intellectual independence means that you can think for yourself rather than simply accepting others' ideas or following conventional wisdom without examination. Intellectually independent people evaluate information critically, form their own conclusions, and make decisions based on their own analysis rather than external pressure. The first 3 habits, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first, represent the sequential development of independence. These habits move you from dependence to independence by developing your character, clarifying your values, and establishing effective self-management practices. Independence is a worthy and necessary achievement, but it's not the ultimate goal. Many people stop at independence, believing that self-reliance is the highest form of human development. However, independence can become selfishness if it's not balanced with concern for others and recognition of our interdependent reality. We live in an interdependent world. Most achievements of significance require cooperation with others. Most problems that need solving are too complex for individual solution. Most relationships that matter, marriage, family, friendship, professional partnerships are interdependent by nature. Interdependence is a choice that only independent people can make effectively. Dependent people cannot choose interdependence because they don't have the character foundation necessary for effective cooperation. They lack the security, guidance, wisdom, and power that come from a strong internal foundation. The last 3 habits, think win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood, and synergize represent the development of interdependence. These habits enable you to work effectively with others while maintaining your own integrity and effectiveness. The 7th habit, Sharpen the Saw, provides the renewal and continuous improvement that enables you to practice all the other habits consistently over time. Without renewal, even people with good intentions gradually lose their effectiveness as the demands of life wear them down. The inside-out approach emphasizes that sustainable change must begin with yourself. You cannot change others directly, but you can influence them indirectly through your own example and through the change dynamic you bring to relationships. When you change yourself, you often find that others respond differently to you. Character development provides the foundation for all other improvements. Techniques and strategies built on a foundation of poor character will eventually fail because they lack the trust and integrity necessary for sustained effectiveness. Character development takes time and consistent effort, but it provides lasting benefits. The principles underlying the 7 habits are universal and timeless. They apply regardless of your culture, background, or circumstances. They represent natural laws of human effectiveness that operate whether we understand them or not. When we align our lives with these principles, we experience greater effectiveness and fulfillment. The 7 habits work together synergistically. Each habit reinforces and enhances the others. Being proactive makes it easier to begin with the end in mind. Having a clear mission makes it easier to put first things first. Personal effectiveness makes it easier to think win-win and seek understanding. These capabilities enable synergy, and renewal makes continued practice possible. Implementing the 7 habits is a lifelong journey rather than a destination. Even people who understand the habits intellectually may find it challenging to practice them consistently. The habits represent ideals to strive toward rather than standards to achieve perfectly. The goal is continuous improvement rather than perfection. The 7 habits apply to all areas of life, personal, family, and professional. The same principles that make individuals effective also make families, teams, and organizations effective. Leadership at any level involves helping others develop and practice these habits. Conclusion and implementation. The 7 habits represent more than a collection of good practices. They provide a comprehensive framework for personal and interpersonal effectiveness based on universal principles. The power of the habits lies not in any individual habit, but in their synergistic relationship and their foundation in timeless principles of human effectiveness. Understanding the habits intellectually is only the beginning. True benefit comes from implementing the habits consistently over time until they become integrated into your character. This implementation process requires patience, persistence, and commitment to continuous improvement. The implementation process begins with awareness, recognizing the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. The 7 habits provide a framework for closing this gap through systematic character development and skill building. However, awareness alone is insufficient without commitment to change. Commitment to change requires both desire and ability. Desire comes from understanding the benefits of change and recognizing the costs of staying the same. Ability comes from developing the knowledge and skills necessary to implement new behaviors effectively. Both elements are necessary for successful change. The natural process of growth and development applies to implementing the 7 habits. Just as physical growth follows natural laws and cannot be forced beyond certain limits, character development follows natural patterns that require patience and consistency. Attempting to change too much too quickly often leads to frustration and abandonment of improvement efforts. Starting with small wins and building momentum is more effective than attempting dramatic changes all at once. Choose one habit or one aspect of a habit to focus on initially. Practice it consistently until it becomes more natural. Then gradually expand your focus to include other habits or areas for improvement. The 21-day or 30-day challenge provides a practical approach to habit development. Commit to practicing a specific aspect of one of the 7 habits for a defined period. Track your progress daily and reflect on your experiences. This focused approach helps establish new patterns while providing measurable progress. Creating environmental supports enhances your ability to practice the habits consistently. This might include scheduling time for renewal activities, creating reminders for proactive behavior, developing planning systems that support putting first things first, or seeking relationships that encourage win-win thinking. Accountability systems help maintain momentum during the inevitable challenges and setbacks that occur during any change process. This might involve working with a coach, joining a study group, finding an accountability partner, or using tracking systems that help you monitor your progress. Regular review and reflection are essential for continued progress. Schedule weekly or monthly reviews to assess your progress. Identify challenges, celebrate successes, and adjust your approach as needed. This reflection time helps you learn from your experiences and maintain focus on continuous improvement. The 7 habits provide benefits at multiple levels. Personal benefits include increased effectiveness, improved relationships, greater inner peace, and enhanced sense of purpose and meaning. Professional benefits include improved leadership capability, better teamwork, enhanced problem-solving ability, and increased trust and credibility. Organizational benefits emerge when groups of people practice the habits together. Teams that think win-win, seek understanding, and synergize consistently produce better results while maintaining higher morale and stronger relationships. Organizations that support habit development create cultures of trust, effectiveness, and continuous improvement. Family benefits are particularly significant because families provide the primary context for character development. Families that practice the habits together create environments where each member can develop their potential while contributing to the welfare of the whole family. Children raised in such environments are more likely to develop strong character and effective life skills. The ripple effects of practicing the 7 habits extend beyond immediate relationships and responsibilities. As you become more effective and character-centered, you influence others through your example. This influence can extend through multiple generations as children learn principles of effectiveness from parents and pass them on to their own children. The 7 habits represent a proactive approach to life that emphasizes choice, responsibility, and principle-centered living. Rather than being victims of circumstances or conditioning, people who practice the habits take responsibility for their choices and their results. This approach creates hope and empowerment even in difficult circumstances. The integration of the 7 habits into daily life requires ongoing attention and commitment. The habits are not mechanical techniques that can be applied without thought. They represent ways of being that must be continually renewed and refined. They require both inner work on character and outward application in relationships and responsibilities. The ultimate goal of the 7 habits is not just personal effectiveness, but contribution to others and to society. Highly effective people use their capabilities not just for personal benefit, but for making positive differences in their families, organizations, and communities. True effectiveness includes both achievement and contribution. The legacy of practicing the 7 habits extends beyond your own lifetime. The character you develop, the relationships you build, the principles you model, and the contributions you make continue to influence others long after you're gone. This perspective adds meaning and significance to the daily practice of the habits. The 7 habits provide hope for positive change regardless of your current circumstances or past experiences. The principles underlying the habits are available to everyone, and anyone can choose to align their life with these principles. While the process requires effort and patience, the results justify the investment. The journey of implementing the 7 habits is ultimately about becoming the person you have the potential to become. It's about aligning your life with universal principles that lead to both effectiveness and fulfillment. It's about developing the character and capabilities necessary to make positive differences in the world around you.